Greetings. This is TimeRider, and I'm hoping I can take a minute or so of your time this morning to explain a few things, because I'm sure you noticed that I changed the name of my YouTube channel. So let me go back a little bit and talk about how I wound up here in the first place. You see, I'm retired, and that wasn't by choice. It was a little earlier than I had expected, but I think I can do okay with it. But either way, I was looking for something to do with my time, and I've always loved computers, and I've always loved photography, and I've always loved doing things with my hands. But I set up Chapter 4 and called it Chapter 4 because I thought it would be the fourth chapter of my life, retirement. So anyway, that's the impetus for Chapter 4. Now, why do I call myself TimeRider? Well, a long time ago, when I used to build my own gaming computers and I was a gamer, TimeRider was the handle that I went by. And yeah, it's taken from the Lynn Swan story, a movie called TimeRider. If you've never watched it, it's kind of a B movie, but it's an interesting movie. And anyway, so I've used TimeRider for years. I've used it with my photography, I've used it in my gaming, and it's just sort of been an internet nom de plume for me. Anyhow, I've had so many people ask me about these things and ask me about Chapter 4, and I got to thinking about it, and I had a conversation with one of my subscribers, and I made the comment that I thought I was the only person on the planet who still used the words "we." And the reply I got was that that's kind of a British thing, and people still use it a little more over there, and I got to thinking about Matchboxes being a British thing. And I wanted to kind of formalize and standardize my format a little bit, and I came up with the title of Wee Little Cars. It's kind of a double entendre, and I've always liked those. So anyway, thanks for letting me bend your ear this morning, and I am going to do a custom for you. And so stick around, and welcome to TimeRider's Wee Little Cars. So one of my subscribers, JG24 Diecast, which I can only assume means Jeff Gordon 24. Kids. Anyway, he sent me a couple things, and in it, there was this bag. God, why do they pick those god-awful colors? With this kind of torn-apart dragster, funny car, whatever you want to call it. And I thought, well, that is certainly interesting. I don't care for the solid chrome interior, but this has possibilities. So I decided to do something with it, not the least of which is get rid of all the god-awful orange and green paint. So first things first, I need to take it apart to get some pieces that I'm going to paint, carefully drilling out these three posts, because that interior is plastic. And then to get that little back piece separated from the chassis, I just opted to cut the pin. And then I went to drill out one of the posts with TimeRider's Thunder Stick, and I wound up blowing the post out. Just that one. So after I kind of fixed it a little bit, I took a barrel grinder and sort of cleaned it up. Make sure the base fits, and I'm going to have to reassemble it with epoxy. So I got everything apart, and I still had a little bit of that aerosol aircraft stripper at this point that I wanted to use up, so that's what I'm using to remove the paint. Then after that, of course, I'm going to clean the whole thing up with my wire brush. Take a look at the casting, see if there's any damage. I'm looking at the casting lines because I'm thinking I want to get rid of those. So using various files, the big thing about doing this is to be very mindful of the angle that you're attacking, I guess, for lack of a better term. That's a heavier file. You can't be shy about it because you do want to get it down. And then once you get the casting lines removed, I just start sanding, usually with about a 220 grit, and then maybe an 800, and then move into like the 1500s. So I've got the car ready for some paint, and we're going to be priming it. I'm using Tamiya Gray here, if I remember correctly. And then I'm going to be using the clear paint, so I'm following it up with a bit of silver. And then here you see I'm putting on several layers of the translucent blue. Now, the problem I had came when I put my homemade decals on, because I don't know what I was thinking. That's supposed to be yellow, but of course the ink is translucent, so it picked up the blue and turned it green, and you could barely see it. Which of course means I get to start over. I had these wheels that I wanted to use from the M2 machines that I bought, but I was having some axle issues, so I had to widen the channel. Basically, I'm making my own axles out of 16-inch tubing, so I widened the channel that the axle sits in, and then I just hand-fed my drill bit into the back hole so that the tubing would then fit into the wheels. And then that window had some orange paint on it, so I had been soaking it in brake fluid. It was stubborn, but I eventually got it off. And then, of course, I wanted to make sure the interior of the car was clean because I'm going to be doing some painting on it. Principally, I didn't like the chrome. Now, I can deal with the silver because I think that the inside of a funny car or dragster, whatever you want to call it, would probably be silver, but it would be, more like aluminum silver, not chrome silver. Sorry about the lighting there. I also did my fair share of research on, looking at photos on the internet. Seats vary in color; they're never chrome, so that was one thing that I wanted to get rid of. And another thing is the pipes on these cars are rarely chrome; they're almost always black, and so I wanted to, change that to be somewhat accurate. And then I took some red paint, and this was just an affectation. I don't know that people use these kind of valve covers on funny cars. I never really looked that closely at that part of it, but I ran some red paint so it would go into the grooves of the mold, because this is plastic, and then I wiped it off with a Q-tip so that the raised chrome areas would still be there. I won't duplicate footage of me painting it primer and painting it silver. Here you can see it's silver, and I'm putting on the tack coat of Tamiya Clear Yellow. I don't know if you recall, I had mentioned that I changed the color on the 68C to green, partly because I was painting this yellow and I didn't want to do two yellow cars. I have to say, though, I had a lot of fun working with the clear paints, and although I'm not using them again on any of my immediate projects, I certainly will keep them in my ditty bag of stuff I can do. So I finished off with a coat of Tamiya X22 Clear, and then I put my decals on, and I used a decal set just around the edges of my decal. I had a bad experience once with the decal set taking the ink off, so I just use it to kind of tack the edges down, and you'll see in the reveal, you can still see them. But I went with a simple decal simply because that was the way the car was made, was with a simple decal, so that was the route I chose. Here you can see all the pieces ready for assembly, and assembly went pretty standard, and so let's take a look at where I started. So yeah, I started with a bag of parts. I suppose I could have put the bag on the table, huh? And then this is where I wound up. Huh. My own personal dragster. Riding time. Don't you just love those wheels? They look like they were made for it. And yes, I noticed the back window and I did fix it, but by then I was done with principal photography. And I know there's a flea bite on the back corner. Clear paint is very hard to fix, so that may just have to live that way. So, and here we are with the top popped open. This is the 70C Dodge Dragster. Hey, stick around for an episode of The Bench after the video, if that's your thing. If not, I'll just wrap this up by saying this is TimeRider, and I'll leave the light on for you. So this is TimeRider, and welcome to this issue of The Bench. I've had a few people ask me since I started doing this how I display my Matchboxes. And my Hot Wheels, I guess. But I use these racks that I bought on eBay, and this is the rack of all of my originals that I'll never restore. Then I have a rack that is all of the cars that I've restored. Each of these will hold like 60 die-cast. And then I have a rack of all my customs. And I'll put a link below where you can get these on eBay. They don't have glass. Oh, well. I'm very excited about this car. It's getting so close to being ready for paint. I still have to deal with a little bit of that groove in the rear pillar. I need to smooth that out. I've got pretty much everything else done. I need to give some attention to the corners of the fronts. You can see there's some little dimples there. And then I need to work a little bit on the casting line right by the A-pillar. But after that, I think it's going to be ready for me to put some paint on this. And I know it seems like a really long time, but this is one of those projects I kind of got sitting on the side that I do in between restorations. You put your primer on to show you where all your errors are, and then you sand, and get your primer off, and then you reprimer it. So doing something like this, it's quite a process, but usually I'm pretty happy with the end result. So this is the next restoration project that I'm working on. It's the Matchbox 66C Greyhound bus, but I'm calling it Pat's bus. And you're going to have to watch the video I do that explains why I call it Pat's bus. But at any rate, I'm going to be laying some silver paint on that a little bit later today. So maybe late tomorrow or early the day after, I'll have this video out. So I saved the best for last. This is a project that I was working on, and I actually lost a piece. And so I just kind of threw the whole thing into a little tub and forgot about it. But it's another one of those, hey, if Lesney had only done things the way I would have done them, they might have had a better product. So this is a Jeep 71C, if you haven't figured that out already. And I'm going to be doing some things to it.